Let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba, who's been listening to the speech with us. And Monica, it strikes us, of course, this is part of President Biden's long goodbye right now. And we're reminded he has been a global presence on the world stage, not just for the last 4 years, but for decades. As a senator, then vice president, now as president. What stood out in this speech?
Exactly, Joe. As he put it, for nearly half a century, he has been having a heavily invested role in some of these real major crises all around the world that he spoke to and that he has seen throughout history, many different times where, in his words, he said, things seemed impossible, breakthroughs seemed completely elusive, where wars could not be finished, and yet things were able to get a bit better and improve at times. So he's trying to stress and apply that lesson that he says he has learned from all of his time in public service to the moment that we are all witnessing when it comes to wars in Ukraine, when it comes to the war in Gaza, and when it comes to turmoil elsewhere abroad. So the president was clear and got some reception and applause at those key intervals and moments when he did speak about wanting to end the war in Ukraine and for a ceasefire deal to finally come together between Israel and Hamas to release those hostages that are still being held by Hamas in Gaza. There was applause for that as well. And in addition, that line that you just mentioned about when he reflected on his own difficult decision to leave the 2024 race, a big line that he delivered to the American people as an explanation for that was, I love this job, but I love my country more. And that is something that now at this venue and on this global stage, he wanted to be clear to share with fellow leaders in making the argument that even though some people may want to stay in power, there are things that are more important than that. And that got some applause, in addition to announcements for the distribution of an Mpox vaccine and some other programs that the U.S. and the Biden administration have been working hard to do when it comes to global health. But I think this was really a president who clearly spoke a bit from his heart today in terms of some of the very difficult things that he has navigated in his career when it comes to foreign policy, but also wanting to leave this sort of legacy in his own words and on his own worldview to some of the global and most intractable challenges that we are still facing right now in our world, but also that he says there still can be some hope for. And something that I thought was really interesting, Joe, is that he did briefly mention Vice President Harris when talking about the war in Ukraine and when talking about standing up to Russian President Vladimir Putin. And that is something that in past years, I don't think he leaned into as heavily. Notable now that, of course, that is who he has endorsed fully as the Democratic nominee, as he says he's passing the torch to this new generation of leadership.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.